What's up, y'all? This is Dre with Brothers United in Leadership Development, Build 206 Media, with another episode of the Collective Network, where we're tapping in with all these amazing folks that are doing amazing work in the community. One, to highlight the work that they're doing, but also to be a proud opportunity to share with community a lot of resources that are going on. And I have the pleasure of interviewing my guy, Big O, from over at Converge Media. Normally, he's on the other side interviewing cats, so it's a great opportunity for me to be able to have opportunity to interview him and share the great work that he's been tapped in, not just recently, but he's been in the media game for a long time. So it's an opportunity for us to interview him. So I'm going to bring him on the screen with us here in a second. What's good? How's it going, bro?
It's going, man. I'm doing good. I want to say thank you for this opportunity. You know what I'm saying? It's always much love for Build, everything that Build is doing. And man, I just want to acknowledge the fact that you're being very intentional and getting information out to the community. And you know what I'm saying? It's a real pleasure to be here.
I appreciate your time. Like I said in the intro, and it's an opportunity for you to be on the other side of the table and answer some questions. I know you used to be conducting interviews, but I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for the work that you and your team are doing over at Converge Media. You know, giving that real black-led, black voice. You know, pressing all the buttons that need to be pressed to make sure that we get the resources and controlling the narrative as well. Because if we let other people control our narrative, it's going to be all bad like it has been. So I appreciate the amazing work that you've been doing. So well, let's jump on in. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself? I know a lot of folks may know what you're doing with Converge, but you could share that. But just in general, like this, a little bit of history, anything you want to share about yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, a few things. I'm from the Central District of Seattle. Grew up on 29th and Jackson. Went to James A. Garfield High School. Really got started, I guess you would say, in media. At Garfield. I was a writer for the Garfield Messenger, and then I did college radio, WRVS 89.9 ECSU. Went to historically Black college university down Elizabeth City State University in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. From there, lucked up and got on with And One and the Basketball Network, just right when they launched the Basketball Network when I got out of college, and then also worked with the College Network after that, and then quite a few record labels in New York. But big career shift in 2004. I went on a vacation to Tanzania and fell in love, man, with the continent, and really for almost 15, 16 years, worked across the continent of Africa and across the Middle East, launching TV and radio stations, streaming platforms, and things like that. Lived in Tanzania for quite a few years, lived in Dubai for 4 years, and really wanted to come back home to Seattle, to our community, and take these skills that I've gained throughout my career, as well as relationships, and be intentional in our community and figuring out the best ways to uplift our voices, tell our stories, and inform our people.
That's dope. But as I do these interviews, I learn more and more about folks. So I didn't know you were tapped in on the And One, so that's super dope. And just with
the And One mixtapes and also the movie Ball Above All. And I'll just throw this in here. It was the best of all these years. It was the best job I ever had because I was like 22 years old, something like that. They gave me an American Express card, a camera, and a mic, and told me go across America and get basketball stories. And it was an amazing experience for a few years.
That's dope. So yeah, and then being able to live in Africa, I know that was an amazing experience too. So that's filthy. So you kind of dabbed into it a little bit, but I want to ask you a specific question. It's about the work that you are doing and have done in community. You shared a little bit about it, but I want you to dive in a little deeper on, kind of what's driving you and the work that you're doing, so folks that don't know can know.
Right. And so Converge Media is going on 5 years. I think we just had our anniversary here. And the thing is I knew when I came home, what I was seeing really overseas was a trend where content was hyper local. When we say hyper local, it's like, man, what's relevant in my neighborhood or in my city? And, all across these different markets I was visiting, there were people that were launching platforms that really focused on, what was happening on their block. And the concept behind Converge is that when I looked here across the Pacific Northwest, there wasn't really a platform that was there focused and on promoting Black content creators across our region, and or distributing or monetizing their content. So the original concept for Converge Media is a culturally relevant, video platform, video, audio. I mean, we do a bunch of different stuff, but ideally video, and where different content creators, not necessarily Converge, but our community is full of amazing filmmakers and photographers and writers and podcasters, and they're making great content, but they don't have no way to really get it out there and to be heard. And so the idea with Converge was to give them that platform and to promote and elevate them. And this has been an interesting few years. I mean, we've been out here for a while, trying to uplift stories in our community. And March 19th of last year, me and Trayana Holiday, we decided to launch a morning update show. And some people might be familiar. That's Monday through Friday, 11 to 12 across the Converge platforms. And we launched the morning update show as like a pop-up live show to give people in our community information what was going on with COVID. If you remember, a year ago, information about COVID, it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It was everywhere. It was all kinds of stuff, man. There was hours for seniors at grocery stores. Or should you spray down your bags? Should you do this and that? And we already know that we can't really expect mainstream media to ever curate information for our community. So we started the morning update show really thinking that we were going to be on air for a few months once COVID blows over and everything else. We're going into our 14th or 15th month now, but the morning update show was on air and rolled into the Seattle protests, and of course we did a lot of coverage there in the Seattle protests. And since the majority of the protests have ended, our primary role, as I see it, is as far as our news side goes, is holding our elected officials and appointed officials and community leaders accountable. And that's something that we kind of pride ourselves on here, is being able to talk to different elected officials, whether it's the mayor, the county executive, the city council members, heads of different organizations. And we really want to put them in the hot seat, so to speak, and, let them look in the camera and tell our community, what it is. And our community is then in turn able to hold them accountable for their words and actions.
Yeah, that's dope. And also what you do is what I see you guys doing is also uplifting and, like you said, amplifying the great work that many folks are doing, which is kind of what the purpose of this show is that we're doing over at Build 206. So I really appreciate that. And like you said, holding folks accountable, because sometimes people just glaze over. It's a little soundbite, right, about what we need. So you guys really be like, nah, man, this is what it is. This is what it ain't. And I really appreciate the balanced approach that you and Trey have, when you guys are doing your guys' shows, to really making sure that it's not, you try to make sure that the Black community's priorities are first and foremost, but not trying to take sides on any issue or another, trying to really get the real information out to folks. So I just want to, shout out and really appreciate the work that you guys have been doing. Like you said, it kind of just organically just popped up. You guys were there, and it just, been all gas, no brakes. So like I said, it's a lot of people don't really understand a lot of the stuff that, Build has been doing. We learned during COVID too. We had to shift a lot of gears to really get things up to speed. So I know, hats off to you guys for being able to step into the gap, and it's much needed. So the next question is, it's more about things that kind of make you tick, like who or what inspires you and why?
Man. Well, okay. So it's kind of a two-part question, or a two-part answer. My dad opened one of the first photography portrait studios here in the Seattle area almost 50 years ago. And, I remember being a small kid, being in the dark room when he was developing photos, you know what I'm saying? And my mom, a lot of people might know her, Reverend Walden. She's definitely a community activist, founder of Mothers for Police Accountability. But I mean, she's as well. She's in her mid-70s. She does a radio show every week on KKNW. So it's like I tell people that it's like media is not on me; it's literally in me. And I still be trying to keep up with my parents, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when you talk about a big inspiration, I mean, they set a high bar as far as communication and as far as work ethic and follow through and everything else. I think what inspires me, and it takes a lot of inspiration. We went through a lot this last year at Converge. I mean, we personally here, like, we suffered a lot of police violence, a lot of, I mean, all kinds of stuff. Death threats, everything, and it takes inspiration to really push through. And I think one of the biggest things is that when we went on air with the morning update show, I remember that day. It was like, man, all we want to do is make our parents proud, our big mama and them, aunts and uncles, our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, the rest of the city, although we have a much larger platform here across Seattle, really across the region, man, we've always been focused on our people. You know what I'm saying? And that's Black people in the Seattle metro area. And the most inspiring thing, to be honest with you, is when we hit the block, and whether it's the CD, whether it's the South End, whether it's in South King County, and we get people young and old, who are just like, man, keep it up. Because a lot of days, man, it's hectic. You feel like throwing in the towel. And so I would say that our community and the feedback that the community gives, and I really feel that we've been able to earn our community's respect. That's the most inspiring thing for sure.
That's dope. And shout out to the elders. I know your mom's been in the town putting in work for generations, for seasons. So shout out to them. Your dad too, and your brother's active. Like, when I first met you, I did an interview at Africa Town when you was doing it in Africa Town, and I heard your voice, and I was like, man, this cat sounds like Shikundi, but I don't want to be like, oh man, So when you gave me your card, I was like, man, this is Shikundi's, bros. What's up with it? And that's when I first saw the Converge Media. Before before it really went to where everybody knew. Like you said, it's been already going. You already been on this. It's not something new to you. This is in you, not on you. You know what I mean? So, but you kind of started talking about what happened over the past year personally at Converge, personally to you personally. But that really dovetails into the next question. And it's like, and you could take it wherever you want to take it, because there's been hella stuff going on, but it's like, what do you think about everything that's been going on over the past year? Like you said, there's been this crazy ass national election cycle. There's local politics is crazy, BLM, everything that's going on with the movement, COVID, like this. You could take it wherever you want to take it.
All right. Well, in that case, then I'll take it here to locally, or more of a local focus here in Seattle. And I would say that, first of all, the two big stories that impacted us, and as far as our programming, I'll start with COVID. Seattle, just like a lot of other cities, but not necessarily to the magnitude, based upon the Black population in Seattle, and based upon just better access to medicine and testing and vaccines and hospitals. Our community didn't necessarily feel the stinging impacts that a lot of bigger cities in America with Black population did on the health side, but on all the other sides. And I'll take that somewhat back, because we still do have the highest rate down there in South King County, at 1.6 times higher than the rest of the county. There's so many essential workers down there. But the thing is like, it's an old saying that, when the rest of America sneeze, Black people catch a cold. And that's kind of what we saw here with COVID, and we saw here in our community, and just the impacts of how many people, man, didn't get no loans. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't get no aid. Converge, one of them. You know what I'm saying, man? We signed up for everything. We still ain't got nothing, And I mean, I could just spend time trying to figure out why or move on. But there's so many businesses that are out there in our community that were just so impacted by COVID. And we also, just like a lot of other places in America, that it peeled back so many disparities, all in every category. Even when they talk about taking school online, so many of our children had issues with that compared to the children of other races. Like I said, access to resources and some of everything else. Um, you know, COVID, COVID on one side, of course, it smacked us up. But the best thing is COVID also revealed the humanity in our community that's always been there, but we oftentimes don't give it enough credit. That, man, we got some really awesome people in our community, always with a willingness to be helpful to the next man. I mean, Bill is very much representative of that and the different kind of things that you guys do. And I think that another thing that we happen to see is just that the innovativeness. Look how many people pivoted, and you even spoke as well. It's like a build. Okay, well, man, how do we pivot? How do we deliver a service differently? You know what I'm saying? What kind of new business? Since a lot of people that it gave that opportunity. Look how many people was like, man, if I could only, get a chance to go back to school or learn how to code, I could change my life. It's a lot of people I know, man, who got way more skills right now than they did 1 year later. So that was one thing. I think something that's definitely is been an even larger issue than COVID at times for us is what's going on here in Seattle and definitely around the political process. And you go back to the Seattle protests, and Seattle is real unique, and people should remember this because a lot of times we talk about we have to really burn the whole system down for anything to change. And I understand, where that comes from, but we just saw this historic signing down there. Governor Inslee signed 12 laws, 12 bills, all around police accountability. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't from the pressure in the streets, the protests, and people committed to calling their legislators or their city council members or their county council members, this wouldn't have happened. It also wouldn't have happened if the advocates hadn't been working on this for quite some time. So we saw a perfect storm down there in Olympia, where basically the power of the protest met the diligence of the advocates. And we see that there's a lot of legislation that's just passed in Olympia. And I only bring that up because it's like, man, the people are behind this movement. It's we the people. And man, it's really been tumultuous, I would say. We suffered an incredible amount of police violence in the city this summer. Converge was just one of many media organizations. Man, we caught hell out there. The police, man, they whipped up on us, consistently. Tear gassed, rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, beat with batons. And we just trying to cover what's going on out there. And it really exposed that there is an element here within the Seattle Police Department that had a penchant for police violence against peaceful community members. And, even right now, we still don't know who gave the order to evacuate the East Precinct. Even right now, that pink umbrella, a lot of people see footage on TV of a police officer grabbing a pink umbrella there at the Western Barricade. I actually shot that footage. And a ruling came out. OPA said the officers were wrong for tear gassing not only the protesters, but a whole neighborhood. And Chief Diaz just came out and reversed that ruling. And, it's still funky around everything around the protest as we go right back into the 1 year anniversary. But I would say that people in Seattle and people in the state of Washington, they should take a deep breath and reflect, take a bow, because there isn't too many cities or states in America that could do what we've done here as far as enacting change on a state level and change policing forever in our state. People know down in Texas and Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, it ain't gonna happen. That's why they don't even try. But here in Seattle and in our state, when the people really put pressure and they're organized and the advocates are there, anything is possible.
Yeah, and this really highlights that the people do really have the power, right? If everybody comes
Yeah.
together and converge, right, and build and converge, like things really can change. If people really show up and get active, but I think sometimes, as systems, oppress us, we get down and down and down, and we feel like what's the point, right? People, that's like you said, you're talking about other states, they got the sense of hopelessness where you think that you really have no voice. But if people really come together, they got to listen, they got to listen because they know if you really get active, if really people really get activated, then things are going to change. And, I didn't really talk out much about, what was going on, because like I said, I try to just stay in my lane and stay focused on the mission and vision. But I don't got much faith in any of these systems. You know what I mean? Like they're working the way that they're supposed to be working. And realistically, I feel like we need to focus on our relationships, our trust, our accountability within our community. Because if we just start dumping money into our community without that, then we're going to still have.
Money don't solve the problem. I mean, this is what I'm saying is that what we see. Look at the homelessness issue. So much money has been spent here in homeless, and the problem gets even worse because a lot of the systemic issues that drive homelessness haven't been addressed. And it's the same thing in our community. If you're like, oh, we got money for this, that, but the systemic issues that cause things to malfunction, not work right, or however, if those are never addressed, then people give some money and then they're like, well, we gave the black folks some money. We did our part. You see what I'm saying? And oftentimes, our eyes get big around the money signs. And, one of the questions I always ask down there at City Hall is always like, money's fine. And, cities invest a lot of money in a lot of different things. But what laws are you going to change? What policies are you going to impact? What things are you going to do that actually impact, wealth building, generational wealth in the black community and solving this education gap? Because money doesn't necessarily, it's good. We need it. We need investment. We've been underinvested. Don't get me wrong. But man, if we don't address these other things, and a lot of these other things, you're right, it starts with us as community first. We got to figure it out first. Because, the money comes and goes. You see, like, when Obama was in office is one thing. Trump came in, reversed Obama. I mean, that's the same thing with a lot of these money issues. Somebody else comes in, they change something, they cut funding. We in the exact same position. So getting to the root of the issue, I agree with you, Dre.
Yeah, and part of it too is, is a lot of funding that comes out is get X number of people into X dysfunctional system. And, like it doesn't really solve the problem. You're making all these investments, but it's not really going to move the needle. There's not a lot of money for us to sit down and break bread and build relationships. Let's go out and let's go on a hike. Let's go on a retreat. Let's get to really, and with gentrification, it's even worse because we're dispersed everywhere, right? We're not all at the CD Panthers or CAY and Rainier Eagles game no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. We're trying to get people to live stream that so we can actually tap in because we're out in Fife or wherever we're at. And so there's more of a need. And I don't know if there's enough. We really been pushing this from the build side and other community organizations that I'm tapped in. Like we need resources to actually just slow down, let capitalism go on a pause for a minute and spend time with each other, break bread and build relationships because that's the foundation. We feel like that's the foundation. And then if we got the foundation, now you can give us the resource because now we got the respect and the trust and all that together. Because if you just dump money in and you don't got the trust and respect, then we're looking at each other like where's.
I think you bring up an interesting point. This is one of the things that we're facing right here in our city is that money has been injected in or hopefully it's in the process here. And, there might not necessarily be all the links in community. And you see what I'm saying? And oftentimes this what happens is that, the amount of money, no matter what, whether it's 30 million or 100 million, whatever, that's minuscule compared to the actual need and to what's owed. But, I think that, man, we would all benefit more from community building without an agenda. And then, you know what I'm saying? The agenda is let's build in community. And with that, we would find that collectively, I think that we as Black people across Seattle and King County would be much more of a powerful force, for good and everything else. And without that, oftentimes we end up with a divide and conquer kind of strategy and people feel left out and slighted and some everything else.
Yeah, I call it institutional gangbanging. It's just the streets at a different level, man. You know, that's all it is. It's just cats is banging at a different level, man. It's the same behavior, same negative behavior, but that's because, like I said, that's the game that they set up for us to play, and it's like we got to choose to be like we're not playing that. And like you said, the people have the power, and if we come and say this is what we want resources for, this is what we need it for, then they're going to shift gears, right? So I'm with it. So the next question is. One that I've been asking everybody, because a lot of times, especially people that are like out of a heart of service, right? We're always filling other people up. And I know I tapped in with you at an event after the situation happened on the freeway that you recorded. And it was really like, man, how are you doing? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing to take care of yourself? And you said other people were tapping in with you to make sure. I think you talked about Donita after she lost her son. She tapped you and was like, hey, man, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, which is real. And so, with that, this is the question that we're asking folks is what have you done during this time? Because there's been a lot going on. You just spoke about traumatic stuff that you went through, just being out there, covering stuff. Like, what have you done during this time to really like take care of yourself?
Man, unfortunately, nothing. I'll be real and honest with you and your viewers. And that's not something that I recommend, but it's just that, we stayed on this story. We said we were going to stay on this story to the end. And, that signing there in Olympia with Inslee and these bills, and then the 1-year anniversary of Seattle protests and CHOP very well might be able to finally wind down. But, when when George Floyd was murdered and the Seattle protests rolled around, I had like two options. I could be in the streets as a protester, or, I could put on my journalist hat and be able to try to tell this story as fair as possible. Now, the thing is, if I would have went out there as a protester, probably would have been able to process a lot of these emotions and everything else, you know what I'm saying, in real time. The absolute anger at this crime against humanity, this slow motion murder, 9 minutes and 29 seconds. But, I'm putting on a professional hat as a journalist. I had to tuck a lot of my personal feelings and emotions down deep, because you just can't do both. You can't wear your feelings on the sleeve and then have an expectation to have, thoughtful, honest, transparent, fair conversation with people who on all across the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Some people we might say we agree with, some people disagree with. I talked to Proud Boys, white supremacists, neo-fascists, you know what I'm saying, all the way to new Black Panther members and everything else. In city council, police. I've talked to everybody. And man, I've had to really just tuck it away. And unfortunately, man, I was either right there or just feet away from 3 murders up there last summer. Of course, Lorenzo Anderson Jr., Antonio Mays Jr., and there on I-5, where you talked about right there, where Summer Taylor was killed and Diaz Love injured. So we saw a lot of stuff well beyond even just the police violence, man. It was funky. And it was a challenge to be like, you know what? Let me put all this emotion in this box. And people would be like, man, you know what? You need to go talk to somebody and you need to go whatever. And which I'm not downplaying, and that's very important. But the thing is that as somebody who's never really talked to somebody and not knowing what that outcome might be, you know what I'm saying? And knowing that, I got to keep this emotional, like steel trap in order to go every day beyond the news and everything else. I've deferred personal care, and I don't recommend that. And, anybody else wouldn't even get this answer out of me, to be honest with you, Dre. It'd probably be a short answer like, oh, I try to read a book and meditate or whatever. But, I know what's important about your platform is just real honest conversation. And, it's times, bro, especially like, man, it's times where it's just emotion is just overwhelming because, what we've seen, we've done. And then also this added pressure now that's on my shoulders. It would even be different if we covered the protests and went home. But, I got to add a responsibility. Like, I get on the morning show. I call the mayor out and be like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. You need to come on my show. The mayor be there, though. It's like 6 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? call, Councilmember Morales. I'm like, what's up with the bread? And, here's Councilmember Morales on the show. But with that comes a lot of weight and responsibility, because I know, you know what I'm saying, I'm representing our community and our people and everything else. So God willing, maybe in the next 2 months, I'll really be able, because when I do take that time for myself, I really want to take that time for myself and really be able to talk about a lot of the experiences that I had that weigh heavy on my heart. It's funny because you mentioned Donita, and it's crazy because, Donita's son was murdered up there, Lorenzo Anderson Jr. And it's been quite a few times where I've been covering something and Donita calls me and she says, "Are you okay?" And I'm always, in a real emotional state when she calls, because I'm always thinking, like, you just lost your son.
Right.
And you call him, and she called me I need to be up early. She called me early in the morning, like, "Man, are you okay?" Which is really dope. And I would just say this, is I'm no expert on this kind of stuff, but just checking on your people and just being like, "Are you okay?" Don't have no expectation for no crazy answer. And most likely somebody's going to be like, "Yeah, I'm good," or whatever. And you can leave it at that. But, Donita calling me and just being like, "Are you okay?" clearly is so impactful to me that I mention it to you right now. And I would just tell people, man, check on your people. You ain't got to be no expert on anything, but, man, see how they doing.
Right. And I appreciate your honesty and candor, and being real, because that's what, that's why I asked that question, because I know a lot of us, matter of fact, a few months ago, I got really sick. I took some time off work. Work had me a little stressed out. Then when I was about to head back, I got really sick and lost like 35 pounds, like boom, like, like people saw me like, "You on that stuff, man?" It's like, "Nah, man, I'm stressed out." You know what I'm saying? And so with that, I really started doing like these daily walks. And I know your brother, me and him be chopping it up, like he's on the health kick, you know what I'm saying? So, I got my little daily, health tracking. I'm gonna text it to you when we get off the phone.
Please do.
But also, let's link up, man. Go on a walk and talk, man. You know what I'm saying? That's the real work, in my opinion, especially as Black men. Like, we've been taught, not only in these type of situations, we always got to hide our emotions and just be cool, calm, and collect. But what I found personally is that that's cool, but that's why we don't get to enjoy retirement, because that shit's killing us on the inside. You know what I'm saying? It's taking years off the ticker. So we look cool, calm, and collect on the outside, but it's eating us up on the inside. So I'm definitely going to challenge you, bro, to really make sure that you're doing things to take care of yourself. And I'm going to be reaching out to you more to be like, let's tap in, let's go on a walk, let's chop it, let's go get a bite to eat, whatever it is. One, to build our relationships, but also, like I said, we can't just be serving the juice, telling folks they got to take care of themselves, and we're not doing it, because guess what? That's what I realized with work. That's why I went half-time at work. Like, I'm going to keep working to keep my benefits, but I'm going to get deeper in the community, because if I have a heart attack or a stroke, guess what they're going to do? They're going to have some ceremonies. They're going to say, "Oh, this is all the great stuff this guy did." Then they're going to post that application and fill that position. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I got a 12-year-old son that's relying on me, and trying to be here for the community, continue to. So I'm going to encourage you the same thing. Like, there's nothing, we have to take care of ourselves. It's not even an option. But I get what you're saying. I'm the same way. It's like go, go, go. Like, it's the drive. Like, the flags are, the racing flags are going. The marathon continues. But at the end of the day, like, it's crawl, walk, run. So I'm definitely, as soon as we get off this interview, I'm texting you this document that I use, and you can edit it how you want to. And then I'll definitely be tapping in with you to see how we can get together. And like I said, just sometimes we make this shit more difficult than what it has to be. Sometimes, like I said, it's just slowing down. Let's go on a walk. Let's chop it up. Let's just check, like you said, even the impact of Donita, just checking on that shit. That stuff makes a huge difference,
It does. And I appreciate that challenge. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm with it. What advice would you give someone looking to get involved in community work?
Oh, man. Wow. This is a really good question, because we need as many people as possible involved in work in our community across so many different areas. But I would say is this, right? More than the actual mechanics of it or logistics or make sure and fill out this form or do this and that, I think that the best thing you can do if you want to get involved in community, supporting community, is find something in community that you love. and that's a passion for you that you enjoy talking about or even working with, you know what I'm saying? Some things you might even be doing right now. Ain't nobody paying you or anything. You're just like, man, you get a sense of accomplishment and a sense of joy out of it. I'm not a big Bible guy, but the Bible says that be a joyful giver. And sometimes we fall into, I wouldn't necessarily say a trap, but I'll just use that word. We fall into a trap where it's like, I'm gonna go and do this, and we end up keeping score. You know what I'm saying? Or we end up being like whatever. And, I mean, we're all human. We fall into them traits, man, because community work is all about giving. Now, being a joyful giver don't mean that you always joyful in your delivery. Some people in our community need tough love. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is be joyful in the fact that you're giving with no expectation. That your sense of satisfaction and your payback will most likely never come from the person that you're assisting or program you're working on. There are some programs like Build where, you know what I'm saying, you're with young people and you get to see that change. But a lot of work, especially in community, a lot of what's needed is behind the scenes. And, we have to be okay knowing that if we're looking for that comeback or whatever, man, your good oftentimes never comes from a direct person that you invested good in. It's just the way the universe works, man. And that's what I'm saying. You gotta be joyful in your giving. You gotta find a purpose or a cause that excites you. Like media, the best way that I can give back to community, man, it isn't necessarily for me to go and put on fish fries or do art installations. And I'm not knocking none of that, or homeless drives. I love media. The best thing I can do is what we've been doing, man. Open these doors up for young people. And I'm in a thriving space where I'm so happy to be able to teach and outreach to young people because I love media. I absolutely love everything about it. And because I'm in that space of happiness and doing something that I love in a position to give back, man, it's wonderful because I'm also able to be that joyful giver that we talk about. And I'm also able to do something that makes me very happy. And I'm also able to do my part in the community. And, I will say one thing, a real positive thing that came out of our coverage of the Seattle protest is there's so many young kids in our community who a year ago wouldn't even be thinking about something in media. They wouldn't even be thinking about, can I do this? And matter of fact, for 2 years, I was promoting that, man, people send your kids free. I'll teach them how to podcast. I'll teach them how to do whatever. We ain't get no response on that. But after the summer, and, being on CNN and Nightline and all this and that, and Black kids in our community seeing somebody Black like them from their community sitting there talking on MSNBC and even Fox News and BBC, it changed people's perspective of what's possible in our community. And now it's like, man, we got a lot of young kids and young adults over here who quite a few of them are making different decisions. Some of them, this is maybe where they be, but there's quite a few of them that might actually be out doing some dirt or something. But instead, they're over here learning how to do this and do that. Long story short, I ain't mean to ramble on, man, but you know what? Thriving in your purpose, loving, find something that you love and figure out how to channel that love into an existing organization or existing things that are going on, or maybe even, get out there and try something new. But, and the other thing is like, man, don't get in this to keep score. Be a joyful giver.
Yeah. And a crazy story that I'll share with you is, like you talking about, sometimes the seeds, you don't even know the seeds that you're planting, right, with this work, right? And in 2008, a young man got killed behind Garfield Teen Life Center on October 31st, Halloween. His name was Quincy Coleman, right? I was like 26, 27 years old. I lost my brother when I was 23 years old and started doing community work when I was 24. Got laced up by Larry Evans, Mary Flowers, Aaron Counts, some other hitters in the community, right? And so I started, doing this work. They moved me over to Garfield Teen Life Center. And and I was, breaking up fights. So it was popping off because, it was going down. Somebody got killed. It was, a lot of emotions, right? So this young lady had gotten into a fight. I broke, like, her mom jumped out the truck, like it was going, like it was really active. I mean, I had to like get on her mom, like, hey man, what do your daughter, what example you setting for your daughter and this and that. And I said these words to this young lady. I didn't even remember I said these words, but I said, the hood is gonna be here, but you're not if you continue moving the way that you're moving. So I was there from October 8th to November 8th because I ended up getting in some trouble on election night. The night Obama got elected, I got in some trouble and got wrongfully convicted in June of 2009. Luckily, all that stuff has been overturned by the Supreme Court. Luckily, I had the resources to navigate that process. But I was only there for a week, basically. You know what I'm saying? This girl just hit me up on Facebook, and I didn't. I was like, where do I know you from? And she explained that story, how that impacted her and changed the trajectory of her life. Just that short amount of time, me being there. And she was like, when I left, like all the kids that were out there were looking for me, like what was going on and this and that. And so she's like, it's dope to see that you're still tapped in community. I was like 26. I'm about to be 40, in June. So
good, brother.
That's a huge milestone, right? So I'm about to be 40 in June, but we just don't know the impacts that we're having with the work that we're doing, the seeds that we're planting. Like you said, ain't nobody doing it to keep score. Ain't nobody, you shouldn't be doing it to keep score. If you are doing it to keep score, man, you need to go cut grass or fill potholes or something like that. If that's what you want to do. If you're here working in the community, you should really be doing it, for the community and making things happen. So I just wanted to share that story because that just happened like a couple of days ago. This young lady hit me up. She's about to be 30 now. And she was telling me, she's, working at polyclinic, went to school, got her certificates, going back to school, trying to become a nurse and a few other things. So it was just dope that those little phrasal words like the hood's going to be here, but you're not if you keep moving the way you're moving, stuck with her, when she's, she was able to tap back in and thank me for that. So it was dope,
Yeah, I would say, man, that like the best thing people can do is live a life of planting seeds of kindness everywhere you go. Because you just never know, when they'll blossom, and they'll always blossom on time. And it might even be in your lifetime. It might be your kid's life, you know what I'm saying? 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now, somebody like, oh, word, man, you're Drake Franklin's son? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's real like that. And, I'm a big believer in planting as many seeds of kindness and understanding everywhere I go, because like you said, you just never know and what the impact's going to be on people.
That's what's up. So how do folks get in contact with you and Converge? I know you talked about all the platforms, but if you want to shout them out, it's in the description. It'll be in the description of the show, but I just want to make sure that, we know people taking information differently. So I want to give an opportunity to shout out the best way for folks to get in tap in with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate it. So we're Converge Media across all social media platforms. So Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, everything is Converge Media. And then our website is Where We Converge. And then me personally across social media at Omari Saul, OMARISAL, and across all platforms. And my Twitter is like news. I cover a lot of news here. So if you're a news head, you go there. Facebook is really, stories, and Instagram is, a lot of photos. We do a lot of photo stuff here. But most importantly, though, if Converge Media can be of assistance to you, shoot me an email. It's Omari, OMARI, at whereweconverge.com.
Yeah, and before we end the show, I like to be equitable, right? So I know I've been leading all the questions. So the last question is really, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do have a question for you. Well, I got a comment and a question. My comment is, brother, I'm glad that COVID is winding down. The last time I saw you, you had a 2-foot afro. and today you look crispy. So there's my comment. Salute. You're looking good over there, bro. Man, where do you see Build in 5 years from now?
That's a great question. And really, like I said, we're not trying to build an empire. We're just trying to do good community work. And our mission is Brothers United in Leadership Development, affecting real change in the community. So that's where I see us in 5 years, is continue to affect real change in community, building our coalition, finding out who's really with it, and trying to, leverage the resources that we have to continue to work. We started businesses because the other thing is we're always knocking on people's doors trying to ask them, you got to start businesses so that way you can really give people real hard and soft life skills as well as generate revenue where you're not, at having the handout. You know what I mean? There's a need for resources to be flowing, but we also have a lot of, like you said, brilliancy within our own community. And that's really what this show is about. So I don't have no grand master plan that, hey, we're going to have some facility or we're going to be doing we just want to affect real change in the community, and wherever things go, that's where it's meant to be. I'm a strong believer, kind of like what you said, like karma. Like I lost my brother for a reason to get me into the work. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that, but that's what really pushed me into the work. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you saw the emotions I shared when we had Stefan's mom on the show, stuff like that. Like this stuff is really who I am, and I wouldn't have an opportunity to reach that young man and his family if I didn't lose my brother. So so like all this stuff all happens for a reason. Me tapping in with you, other folks, I really am a strong believer that things happen for a reason, and try not to let the hype of what's going on change the trajectory or the mission and vision, right? So like really, I just hopefully that we continue to grow and build in the community.
That's dope. And on that note, I'll say this is that, the sound is funny in that being here for years doing the same thing, but we wasn't in the club. I couldn't get a job. I mean, worked all around the world, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, China, France, Netherlands, 25 African countries. I couldn't get a job here. And you know what I'm saying? Came back home, and that's really, we started and was pushing Converge. And with that, you know what I'm saying? We wasn't in the club, bro. And it took me a year. It's funny because now, I reach out to the Bears office, they get right back to me. I emailed every month for a year just trying to get added to the ethnic media list. And I say is that basically, the city, the good citizens here in the Emerald City, seeing us getting our ass whooped by SPD and everything else, we're now with the club, And I'm only saying it's like, man, because I know that one of the big things is business and business development for these young people, man. And one thing is for sure is like, man, we can go anything that we can do here, connecting the dots, because people act differently when you're at the club. You know what I'm saying? Like before I was in the club, I have to send this 30-page presentation to somebody and meet with the lowest person in their marketing department. And I'll talk to CEO. It's crazy. It's a high price to pay. But man, while we got this window, what I'm saying is whatever Converge can do to push this build vision all across any direction, media, the jobs or whatever, like, man, we're here. And you know what I'm saying? I say this sincerely and to the public, it's not even like, yeah, I got you, bro. Very much to the public, man, hold me to it. Because like I said, it isn't too often we be in the club. And those of us who do get in the club, man, they be gatekeeping. They're like, right. Nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And so, man, while we here, while Converge has this big spotlight and this big platform, anything that we can do, man, we here for it.
And we appreciate us building. I think the first and foremost is us tapping in and building our relationship, and then everything else is going to be Gucci from there. You know what I mean? Once we build the foundation, then it's layups. It's all layups. So I definitely appreciate the gesture, and you've already been doing that. You've already, shown that you're exercising that with not just Build, but other organizations as well, providing a platform for people to come out and share the wonderful work that they're doing in community. So I'm definitely going to take you up on that offer. But first and foremost, I want to build our relationship with each other. And like I said, like I said, as soon as we're done, I'm texting you, bro. I'm at you with this daily health tracking sheet, and we're going to schedule a time for us to get together and do a little walk and talk, man.
Man, it's all good. If only I had Dre Franklin's hair. You know what I'm saying? Mine left me long ago.
Well, we get that self-care. That's why I got to take care of yourself, man.
No, you're right about that.
All right, bro. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, Dre. And man, I appreciate this conversation and look forward to connecting with you again, both offline and online.
Respect. All right, bro. Peace. as you can see, Big O doing amazing things. I'm glad he was able to, pour into some of the stuff that he was struggling with around self-care, because that, like, as Black men, as Black folks in general, especially people that are serving the community, a lot of times we're always pouring other people's cup up but not making sure we're taking the time. So I'm definitely going to tap in with my bro, but he's doing amazing work over at Converge. Make sure you guys hit him up, check him out, like, comment, and share. Share the stream, as Big O would say. Make sure y'all tap in. One love, Build 206 Media, Brothers United Leadership Development. Until next time, peace.